Welcome back to spoken language lesson 4, part 3 and the last part. So what I'd like you to do in this last bit is look at my example of how to create pathos, look at my sentence starters, and then try and add your own in. Notice how I've started with my plan of always going back to my plan, and I've highlighted in red there the areas that I'm going to focus on. So I'm going to look at friends, fashion, the elite behaviour behind brand clothing. So that's the area I'm going to show you. So remember, you start with the imagine a world or a life. So you put them in the shoes of something quite negative. So I really want my audience to really feel quite sorry for this girl. Have a listen and look at some of the examples there on the left hand side. I've not used them all, but they're there if you want to use some of them. So for a moment, I want to take you back to 1999. It's year 9 of secondary school. Imagine this world for this young girl who's woken up on the first day of year 9 and tying the shoelaces of her non-branded school shoes. She's got a new blazer, new shoes, even a new pencil case, and she's excited until she gets to form time and hears the sniggers from the girls at the back who throw the branded shoes up on the desk and rummage around in their Adidas school bag, throwing branded makeup and the latest PE trainers around. Can you take a minute to picture her shrink into herself, making herself smaller and less noticeable? She knows her parents couldn't really afford the new blazer she needed, and they even had gone out of their way to get her a new pencil case she really wanted, despite it being an extra cost. Yet look at the impact clothing had on these girls with the branded clothing. Where does this arrogance and belittling come from? Would you, like me in this story, have felt the stinging pain and guilt because of a shoe brand? This environment for our school children is constantly moulded by clothing, and it truly saddens me that it's a memory like that still sits with me today. So look at the bits in red for me. Notice how I've used imagine a world. I've used a list of 3. Can you take a minute? So I'm asking the reader to really step into that world and know how she feels. Yet to look at. So I'm directing the reader, and I've used a couple of rhetorical questions there. Where does, would you? So just some examples and ways that you could start there as well. And notice how I've been quite specific. I've given you a year, I've given you a person, I've given you a year to focus on, and I've just focused on one thing. I focused on the shoes. Okay, so here's my opposite. So here's the picture a positive world. Yet we know the impact of clothing can have on our young people also be beneficial and enlightening. So let me take you back to my youth again, but I want you to know about Oliver. I really admire Oliver because he chose to use clothing in such a way that told the world that he was who he wanted to be, and no peer pressure or latest fashion was going to tell him otherwise. He was a super fan of skating and bands like Offspring, Sum 41 and Blink-182. His clothing helped him create for himself an identity that he felt comfortable in, and from the shy boy at the beginning of school who had few friends, his clothing seemed to help him make friends who connected over similar likes. There was no showing off or competition, I noticed. Instead, his clothing had given him something that I didn't have, a friendship group he connected with and felt safe with. This is also the power of clothing on behaviour, but here it's positive and really helped Oliver. Okay, again, you can see in green the areas that I've picked up on to help kind of start that now picture a positive world. So use some of those. Go back to your plan. Either use made up or personal stories to try and fit your speech. You're looking at this pathos, you really want to think about the emotion you want to create. And I would just direct you to, before we finish, this bit here, which is just telling you to really think about what emotion you want to invoke before you start your speech. So I would pick 3. Okay.